glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you this Wednesday. Labor troubles hit Air Transat.
A December strike will be catastrophic.
The potential disruption during a high travel season.
Mexico and Canada have taken advantage of the United States.
Donald Trump takes a new swipe at the trade agreement.
This threat was an attempt at election interference.
Plus, a local politician allegedly ends up on the wrong side of the law.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Well, Canadians wanting to escape the kind of weather we're having these days look to airlines like Air Transat for seasonal flights to southern destinations. Trouble is, the union representing Air Transat pilots says members have voted overwhelmingly to authorize a strike. CTV's Annie Bergeron Oliver now on what the issues are and when that could happen. Annie.
Sandy, if the two sides can't come to an agreement soon, the union says a strike could happen as early as December 10th. In exactly 1 week's time, Air Transat could be forced to start grounding flights, as its roughly 700 unionized pilots will be in a position to strike.
A December strike will be catastrophic because capacity is already saturated. Other airlines like Air Canada and WestJet are flying full plane for the holidays.
The threat during the busiest travel time of the year comes nearly a year after talks between the union and airline began. The pilots want pay raises and better job security and say they're tired of working under a contract signed 10 years ago. In a statement, the union says, "Let us be clear, we do not want to strike. However, after nearly a year of slow bargaining and little progress, we urge management to utilize the remaining time and negotiate seriously to avoid operational and flight disruptions."
If anyone knows labor negotiations, I do, and I know that there's a pattern here, and we obviously hope they get a deal.
The airline is confident a deal can be found, saying in a statement, although this is a common step in the collective bargaining process and does not mean that a strike will be initiated, we remain fully committed at the bargaining table and aim to reach a tentative agreement without labor dispute. Aviation analysts say the prospect of a Christmas slowdown puts pressure on a company already facing financial troubles.
I don't think Transat's in a position right now of being able to accept a financially disruptive situation like a strike, so they will settle.
Air Transat says its operations are currently running as normal. Both sides have to give 72 hours notice of either a strike or a lockout. Sandy.
All right, Annie, thank you so much. Now, Donald Trump says he's not sure what the future holds for the trade agreement between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico, and he spoke about it today in the White House.
It expires in about a year, and we'll either let it expire or we'll maybe work out another deal with Mexico and Canada.
Public hearings are underway in Washington over the next 3 days ahead of the formal review of CUSMA in July. Now, Donald Trump's tariffs has forced layoffs, creating tough days ahead for Algoma Steel in the city of Sault Ste. Marie. Now, just across the border is Twin Cities, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, a place that prides itself on having a bond with its northern neighbor that transcends politics. And it is where we find CTV's Heather Wright looking into whether that city is also feeling the pain. Heather?
The Sault Ste. Marie International Bridge spans 4.5 kilometers, connecting the two Saults on either side of the St. Mary's River. Two cities, two countries, facing similar challenges.
Definitely, there's been a pinch.
Jennifer Riatoir owns The Mole Hole, a shop that caters to both locals and visitors, though fewer Canadians are stopping by these days.
I'm sure the tariffs did not help, but I did already notice a drop because of the exchange rate.
Riatoir has been in business for more than a decade, but in the last year, she's watched as her margins have been squeezed thanks to tariffs.
Some of our vendors do try as well to absorb it for a while, but ultimately they pass it on to us. We absorb what we can, but we also can't absorb everything. There's just not enough room for it, and so everybody pays for tariffs.
While tariffs are most acutely felt on imported hard goods, prices have also risen at the grocery store.
Everything is going higher, and we're doing okay, but I think there's a lot less fortunate people that have to really struggle, and I don't know how they make ends meet.
It's a struggle Dan Trevisanute is trying to help with. He's a barber in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and is offering discounted pricing to all Algoma employees as his way to give back.
It's the least I can do. and a little bit of affordability to offer these people dignity, because they'll be looking for jobs, and there'll be a lot of people just going to be in a bad way.
Officials in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario were already expecting an increase in social services needs in 2026 before the layoffs. That need is expected to rise even more now. Sandy.
All right. Thank you, Heather. CTV's Heather Wright in Michigan. Now, despite Donald Trump's push to buy American, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, is set to spend millions of dollars on a fleet of armored vehicles made by a Canadian defense manufacturer. CTV's Rachel Aiello has been digging into the contract. Okay, Rachel, what do we know?
Sandy, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement put in the rush order with Canadian firm Rochelle late last month, worth the equivalent of 10 million Canadian dollars. 20 armored vehicles made by this Brampton-based defense manufacturer are set to be delivered to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement before the end of the year. According to U.S. procurement documents, Rochelle is uniquely positioned to deliver what ICE agents require within the necessary time frame, and confirmed immediate availability of vehicles that fully meet ICE specifications. Asked if the federal government has any concerns about the deal with a U.S. department accused of abusing human rights as it deploys U.S. President Donald Trump's mass deportation efforts, the foreign minister didn't say.
The government is not involved in the transaction. We have not received any questions or permit requests regarding this transaction. And I will continue to reiterate that Canada and the United States have a strong bilateral relationship with an open line of communication in which, if necessary, I will raise the issues with Secretary Rubio.
Rochelle's made-in-Canada armored vehicles have been sent to the front lines in Ukraine. And while this contract comes despite Trump's America First edict, the Canadian company did set up an American factory last year, and it remains unclear where the specific emergency response vehicles ICE has ordered are originating. CTV News asked Rochelle and the ICE office responsible for procurement for comment. At this hour, neither have responded. Sandy?
CTV's Rachel Aiello in Ottawa. Thanks, Rachel.
I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks.
And that is, of course, Donald Trump, and he is taking aim at Minnesota's large Somali community, where ICE raids are expected in the coming days. Some 80,000 or so Somalis are spread out across the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon is on this story today. Okay, Joy, why is Donald Trump focusing now on this community?
Well, Sandy, the president's latest crackdown was prompted by the shooting of the National Guard members here in Washington last week. Trump blamed Afghan refugees and demanded that all asylum applications be re-examined. He has repeatedly attacked Somali refugees for gang violence and over a pandemic fraud scheme, accusing Somalians in Minnesota of ripping off the state. Now, most are here legally, but Trump has moved to terminate any kind of temporary protection for the rest. He has singled out Minnesota's Representative Ilhan Omar. Here's what she had to say.
I mean, our president's obsession with me and the Somali community really is creepy and healthy. And we are not, and I am not, someone to be intimidated, and we are not going to be scapegoated. We are here to stay.
Is all of this why the U.S. president is also shutting the door to immigrants from some 19 non-European countries?
Well, remember the president's ban on Muslim-majority countries in his first term? Well, this is an expansion on that. Mostly countries from Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. Trump labeled those 19 nations high risk, from visa overstays to poor vetting of refugees. And he has suspended all immigration applications, including green cards and naturalization, all of it in limbo. Legal challenges are expected, Sandy, but the last Trump ban was upheld by the Supreme Court. Sandy?
All right. CTV's Joy Malbon in Washington. Joy, thank you. We are getting a rare look into the private Caribbean island that convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein owned after House Democrats released photos and videos of the property in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And this is where Epstein is alleged to have trafficked young girls and had secret parties with high-profile individuals. These images were taken in 2020 by local authorities, showing various areas in his home that have never been made public before. The move comes ahead of a December 19th deadline for the Department of Justice to release its Epstein files. A Calgary teenager is facing several charges after allegedly using artificial intelligence to create child sexual abuse and exploitation material. Police say the 17-year-old specifically targeted high school girls. CTV's Kathy Lee is looking into this very troubling story. Okay, Kathy, what are police saying about this?
Sandy, police are not releasing the name of the suspect nor the high school he went to in order to protect the identity of the victims. But what we know is that this person has been charged for allegedly using AI to create sexualized photos of teen girls, and these victims went to several high schools in the Calgary area. Police say a search warrant was done at a home on November 13th. 2 cell phones, a tablet, and a laptop were seized. Officers say that teens need to realize creating these images and sharing deep fakes is an extreme form of bullying and a criminal offense.
With any technology, as it gets better and more readily accessible, there's ways to use it for bad behavior. So there is an uptake in the reporting and obviously the offending on those platforms using those softwares. It just goes with the advancement of all technology.
Police say the 17-year-old faces charges including making, possessing, and distributing child sexual abuse and exploitation materials and criminal harassment. Police say the teen was released on numerous court-ordered conditions, including no contact with anyone under 16 years of age unless through school or work. The suspect will be in court in January. Sandy.
All right, CTV's Kathy Lee. A doctor who pleaded guilty to selling ketamine to actor Matthew Perry in the weeks before his fatal overdose has been sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. He is the first of 5 to be sentenced in connection with the Canadian actor's death. Prosecutors were asking for a 3-year prison sentence for Dr. Salvatore Plasencia after getting a plea agreement where he admitted to selling Perry large amounts of ketamine, knowing he was a struggling addict. He has not been accused of selling the dose that killed the Friends star in October 2023. Police have charged a small-town Ontario politician with uttering death threats after she was allegedly caught up in a lie. Clarington councillor Karina Trail originally claimed a menacing voicemail against a future mayoral candidate was an AI fake. CTV's Adrian Gobriel is in Bowmanville, Ontario, to help us understand this new development. Adrian.
Sandy, it's an eye-opening story that CTV News has been covering for months. A local councillor here in Clarington, Ontario, just east of Toronto, Karina Trail, has been charged with uttering threats. Now, Tom Dingwall is a former Toronto police officer. He's been eyeing a run for the mayor of Clarington now for a number of months, though he claims that back in August he received a disturbing voicemail that he claims was from Trail. Now, in it, she threatens him to stay out of the mayor's race, and if he doesn't, he says the voicemail, the voice on that message says that she would come to his house, murder him, and sexually assault his wife. Now, he says he received a second voicemail that he believes was also from Councillor Trail. In that voicemail, she apologizes, though after the story went public, Councillor Trail has publicly stated that while some of that voicemail message is her voice, other parts were artificially generated.
This threat was an attempt at election interference and an attempt to keep me from running in next year's mayoral election. There's no room for violence or threats of violence in politics. It cannot be overstated the impact that this incident had on my family and in particular my wife.
Now, both of those voicemails were shared with police, which have led to the charges. Now, we've reached out to Councillor Trail, though we've yet to hear back. Now, Sandy, as you can imagine, this story is the talk of the town. All
right, CTV's Adrian Gobriel. Thank you, Adrian. Liberal MP Stephen Guilbeault spoke today after resigning from cabinet last week over the energy agreement with Alberta, and he explained why he's keeping his seat in the Liberal caucus even after stepping down.
In our parliamentary system, if you're a member of a cabinet and you disagree with a decision or a policy from your government, then the obvious thing to do is to quit cabinet. That's what I did. But I'm still a member of the Liberal Party.
Guilbeault was an environmentalist before becoming a politician and says he doesn't believe a company will actually step forward to build the proposed pipeline. Now, First Nations chiefs in Ontario are slamming a promise by the Prime Minister to reintroduce a bill on clean water in the spring as coming too late.
We were told yesterday by Canada, by the Prime Minister himself, that they intend to delay reintroduction of Bill C-61 until the spring of 2026. This is not acceptable. First Nations have waited too long.
Mark Carney made the commitment to bring forward a new version of the First Nations Clean Water Act while addressing the Assembly of First Nations yesterday. Dozens of First Nations are still without access to safe drinking water. Now, a small BC town is about to lose a major employer. The Domtar pulp mill in Crofton is closing, throwing 350 people out of work, but it's not U.S. tariffs this time. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson on what's behind this permanent closure. Hi, Andrew.
Sandy, the forestry sector has been hit hard by U.S. tariffs and duties. There are mills all over BC struggling to adapt. But the company behind this closure and industry experts say Trump cannot take the blame this time. The Crofton pulp mill has been a major employer on Vancouver Island since the 1950s. Now, 3 weeks before Christmas, 350 workers have learned they will soon be out of a job.
It's a real punch to the gut for our whole community. To lose a good union job like this is tough any time of the year, but to get that news right before Christmas is devastating.
Very upset. I mean, it supported our family and so many families in this town.
Mill owner Domtar says the mill is shutting down because of a lack of access to affordable wood in BC, an issue also being flagged by industry advocates.
You will hear people say tariffs. It is approximately 0%. And I'll go on record and I'll debate that with anybody.
He says a tiny percentage of what's produced in Crofton ends up in the U.S. The province's official opposition says the issue with fiber supply is a result of government mismanagement.
Tariffs aren't the issue. That's all we've been hearing in the House. It's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault. It's not Trump's fault. It's this government's fault.
Today, the Premier acknowledged forestry is in a tough spot.
The combination of pine beetle, the need to protect old growth, forest fire, and low prices is incredibly challenging.
The BC government says it will leave no stone unturned if there is a way to bring back good-paying forestry jobs to the Crofton site. For now, they'll turn out the lights at the mill December 15th. Sandy.
All right, CTV's Andrew Johnson. Andrew, thank you. One of the 5 players acquitted of sexual assault charges in the high-profile Hockey Canada trial returned to the NHL last night. Carter Hart made this big save in overtime to keep the game tied. His Vegas Golden Knights would go on to win in a shootout after the game. Hart described what it was like to play for the first time in nearly 2 years after his league-mandated suspension.
Oh, it's just so good to be back. These guys here are awesome. Just grateful for the opportunity here. Huge win tonight. Just feels so good. Like it's hard to put into words.
Hart's return was celebrated by his new teammates. He is the only one of the players acquitted to have returned to the NHL. And Canadians will learn who the men's soccer team will face at the upcoming World Cup this Friday. Secretary of Sport Adam Van Courden is Canada's FIFA Sherpa for the tournament and spoke about the upcoming draw and the country's priorities ahead of the competition.
I am very excited to go down to Washington, D.C. with the Prime Minister on Friday to attend the draw for FIFA so we can determine which countries will be competing where. It's an exciting time for our country, hosting the world's biggest event next year.
And you can catch the World Cup draw this Friday morning on TSN. Coverage kicks off at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. Quebec is looking to crack down on some online business practices around ticket resellers and automatically build subscriptions. The province wants to force sellers to disclose that tickets are being sold on a reselling platform and might be found cheaper elsewhere. The original ticket price would also have to be revealed, and those who break the law could face fines. As for automatic subscription renewals, companies would have to make it simple to cancel a service after a free trial with an obvious unsubscribe button on websites. Thousands of people in Nova Scotia were without power today, and a number of schools were also closed as a powerful storm hammered most of Atlantic Canada. This video shows some of the heavy snow that was falling in St. John's this morning. Provincial government offices and schools in St. John's were also closed today. Some areas were forecast to see as much as 50 centimetres of snow and winds up to 100 kilometres per hour. There were a number of ferry cancellations as well. Spotify delivered its annual Wrapped list today with a look at the most streamed artists and songs of 2025 around the world and across Canada.
Angels up in the clouds are jealous knowing we found something so will be ordinary.
Ordinary by American singer-songwriter Alex Warren was the biggest song in this country, although when it comes to Artist of the Year, Canadians went homegrown with Drake. The Toronto rapper also ranked 4th in the most streamed artists around the globe, with that title changing hands. In a twist, Taylor Swift was dethroned as the most streamed global artist. She's held this title for the last 2 years, but now takes second place to reggaeton superstar Bad Bunny. The 2026 Super Bowl halftime performer from Puerto Rico has reclaimed the top spot, which he also held for a 3-year stretch beginning in 2020. And that is it for us this Wednesday. Thanks for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Rinaldo. Your local CTV News is coming up. Bye for now. We'll see you tomorrow, we hope.